Hello, we are going to deal with the poetry of Adrienne Rich with a specific reference to one of her well-known poems, The Phenomenology of Anger. First, we will look into the historical and literary context, then briefly see her life, then examine a theory of revisionism which is close to the heart of Adrienne Rich, then read some selections from The Phenomenology of Anger, analyze a poem, and then deal with three topics: feminist consciousness raising, a visual reading, and a phenomenological reading of this poem called The Phenomenology of Anger. Let us see the historical and literary context. The second part of the 20th century in the US was dominated by what is known as this Vietnam War. The US was involved in this long drawn heavy casualties war called Vietnam War, something like 20 years, and because of this long war and because of these heavy casualties, people affected by different sections were protesting against the US war policies, and at this time this particular war exposed the inadequacy of the US army capabilities. Considered to be one of the best armies in the world, it could not tackle the problem of Vietnam within a short time. 20 years is not a short time. At the same time, we have the second wave of feminism in the 1960s and 80s. What happened was, some women employed in government or organizations, they began to lose their jobs and began to be confined to home, and that created some kind of unrest among women, and also it led to the solidarity among women in the US. They began to establish their own positive images in public discourse. Betty Friedan's book, The Feminine Mystique, demystified the women's pictures presented by the media, the society, and it changed the perceptions and portrayals of women in life. Adrienne Rich was a girl born into a conventional family, and she had good education. In her initial life, she ventured as a conventional modernist poet in 1951. But later on, she went through a broken marriage after 3 children, and that is where she was able to gain a lot of experience and emerge as a radical feminist, poet, and also activist. In fact, she led the second wave of feminism in the US along with other prominent women activists of the time, particularly Alice Walker and Audre Lorde. She played a key role in the anti-war movement, that is Vietnam War and many other wars actually. She advocated lesbian continuum and sisterhood. That means there is a kind of different levels of relationship between people, particularly women, and they should build up that kind of network so that they can help each other. In her life, she examined the issues of social injustice, identity, and sexuality, dedicated herself to the humanity through her poetry and prose. She started revising the social myths of women and men and salvaged the wrecked women and built a new tradition in poetry and American culture. This is what we have about Adrienne Rich's revisionism, which is close to her heart. It is not just having a vision, but a revision. What does it mean? It is an act of looking back, of seeing with fresh eyes, of entering an old text from a new critical direction, which is for us more than a chapter in cultural history. It is an act of survival, and this drive to self-knowledge for women is more than a search for identity. It is part of her refusal of the self-destructiveness of male-dominated society. What Adrienne Rich tries to emphasize through this extract is seeing with critical eyes, seeing with fresh eyes, being able to survive in this world with self-knowledge and more than self-identity as a woman. The passage actually continues. According to Adrienne Rich, the revision is a radical critique of literature, feminist in its impulse, would take the work first of all as a clue to how we live, how we have been living, how we have been led to imagine ourselves, and how our language has trapped us as well as liberated us, and how we can begin to see and therefore live afresh. We need to know the writing of the past and know it differently than we have ever known it not to pass on a tradition but to break its hold over us. She was committed to this kind of revisionism throughout her life. She closely examined how language traps women and men into a kind of conventional way of life. This new vision she expected to bring about changes in language as well. Let us see some selections from this poem, The Phenomenology of Anger. The freedom of the holy mad to smear and play with her madness, write with her fingers dipped in it the length of your room, which is not of course the freedom you have walking on Broadway to stop and turn back or go on 10 blocks, 20 blocks, but feels enviable maybe to the compromised, curled in the placenta of the real, which was to feed and which is strangling her. We can see some crucial images used in this poem regarding this fingers dipped in and curled in the placenta with reference to freedom. Here we have another extract. White light splits a room, table, window, lampshade, you, my hand stick in a new way, menstrual blood seeming to leak from your side. Will the judges try to tell me which was the blood of whom? Specifically, Rich focuses on female experiences of this broken life, table, window, lampshade, you, that division she is able to see, and then she asks a rhetorical question, will the judges try to tell me which was the blood of whom? Another extract. Not enough when I dream of meeting the enemy, this is my dream. White acetylene ripples from my body, effortlessly released, perfectly trained on the true enemy, raking his body down to the thread of existence, burning away his lie, leaving him in a new world, a changed man. Here again we have a violent metaphor in this acetylene, a gas used for violent purposes in army, and also it is used for welding and all that. Now at the end of this burning of a woman that she imagines, she has a new vision of a man for her. One more extract. Here we have the powerful voice of Adrienne Rich against man. I hate you, I hate the mask you wear, your eyes assuming a depth they do not possess, drawing me into the grotto of your skull, the landscape of bone. I hate your words, they make me think of fake revolutionary bills, crisp imitation parchment they sell at battlefields. Here again we can see a powerful metaphor, words connecting with this crisp imitation parchment. What she hates is this masking of men and women, particularly men. The only real love I have ever felt was for children and other women. Everything else was lust, pity, self-hatred, pity, lust. This is a woman's confession. Now look again at the face of Botticelli's Venus, Kali, the Judith of Chartreuse, with her so-called smile. Here we have the last extract. Many sleep the whole way, others sit staring holes of fire into the air, others plan rebellion. Night after night, awake in prison, my mind licked at the mattress like a flame, till the cell block went up roaring. Thoreau setting fire to the woods. Every act of becoming conscious, it says here in this book, is an unnatural act. This unnatural act of becoming conscious, becoming aware, was a whole lifetime mission of Adrienne Rich. Let us see the thematic contrast between anger and equanimity, freedom and slavery, normality and madness, friend and enemy, truth and lie, love and hate, original and imitation, obedience and rebellion, conscious and unconscious, natural and unnatural. This is a kind of awareness that Adrienne Rich brings about in the readers, specifically women, to arise from this lie, from this so-called madness, from this normal life, from this unconscious life. That is why she wants to unravel the lie and show the truth to both men and women. A number of poetic devices can be found in this poem. We refer to many of them. Let us look at them now specifically. First, we have this rhetorical question, will the judges try to tell me which was the blood of whom? Judges usually men. And then we have this metaphor acetylene, the gas that destroys people and objects. Anaphora we have in 3 lines 79, 80 and 84. I hate you, I hate your mask, I hate your words, I hate your eyes, assuming a depth which you do not possess. Then we have another metaphor here, words they make me think of fake revolutionary bills, crisp imitation parchment they sell at battlefields. This kind of war consciousness is always there in her, and words are imitations, they are not originals, they do not have meaning, they do not have sense, they tell lies. That is why she hates words, she hates this patriarchal language which suppresses truth. Then we have a very interesting case of chiasmus in these 2 lines, everything else was lust, pity, self-hatred, pity and lust. The kind of reversal that she wants to bring about in society can be easily seen through this kind of chiasmic structure that she brings into her poem. Lastly, we have a simile, my mind lit at the mattress like a flame, mind becoming like fire and catching fire and creating destruction for renewal of life. That is what Adrienne Rich tries to do in this particular poem. Now let us examine rhyme, rhythm and meter in this poem. There is no fixed rhyme actually in this poem. Some unusual initial rhyme can be seen in 3 words, raking, burning, leaving in line 64, 66 and 67. We have line length which varies from 1 syllable to 10 syllables, and the rhythm is dynamic through variation in line length. We have again many different metrical patterns, tetra, penta, mono, di, tri, everything is there. In some cases we have extra syllables as well. So we can say this poem has metrical patterns, so we can call it polymetrical. We have caesura, enjambment and end stop lines. One example is there, the only real love I have ever felt was for children and other women, everything else was lust, pity, self-hatred, pity, lust. Generally we can say that this poem has iambic and trochaic measure. To give an overall impression of this poem, let us see these points. This poem is obviously a feminist poem with a difference. It expresses anger about the atrocities of men against women and also suggests ways to overcome the oppression with a female bonding. The poet identifies the male language as a serious problem of experience and expression. Hence, she uses it to subvert the male dominance by incorporating female experience of togetherness, understanding, appreciation not only among women but also with children and the larger oppressed humanity. Her aim of consciousness raising is perfectly achieved with the unnatural act of becoming conscious of rebellion and the humanistic retribution, the anger, the revenge that she has expressed in this poem. Let us focus on this feminist consciousness raising, which is important for Adrienne Rich and many other feminists of her times. It means expanding awareness of ourselves and also in relation to others and the world at large. It involves self-reflection and self-awareness. That means we ask questions about what is happening inside us and others, and then we become aware of our own feelings. And for this to happen, we have to ask questions about self. That is where we have this self-examination. Here we can quote Socrates' famous statement, the unexamined life is not worth living. Adrienne Rich is a feminist, but we are quoting a man's words to support her. This further implies some kind of meditation, mindfulness, which is at the heart of poetry. That is why we say poetry leads to self-awareness. For Adrienne Rich, she has said poetry is a survival tool for her, and this kind of awareness is raised through meetings, debates, discussions, demonstrations which she held throughout her life. We have a special focus on this male and female language in this poem, and we have also a quotation from another poem called The Burning of Paper Instead of Children, because Rich considers language a weapon. She says, this is the oppressor's language, yet I needed to talk to you. From this poem the burning of paper instead of children. A feminist critic, Mary Gentile, has something to say on language. We have quoted her here. If I learn to express my experience as a woman in its entirety, in its physicality, in its complexity, without self-censorship, without employing eternally imposed categories and evaluations, and with the conviction that my experience is valid, coherent and deserves attention, I will be speaking a new language, that is feminist language, which Adrienne Rich speaks and wants other women to speak. We have a visual reading of the poem here. In the whole poem we have many images, and it starts from the true enemy using acetylene to burn him and then see the whole universe, and she refers to subway in US, and then we have images which are presented to us historically like Botticelli's, Colli's, and then we have this chartreuse, and lastly we have Thoreau. Live the life you have imagined, Thoreau says, and it appears to be only for men, not for women. That is why Rich wants to appropriate this kind of awareness for herself and for women in general. We also have a special focus on this phenomenological reading here. Poetry, feminism and phenomenology, they have some kind of interrelationship which we have attempted in this particular segment. Poetry is an expression of emotion. Feminism is also an expression of emotion for and against women and also men. Then what is phenomenology? It is a philosophical method of studying phenomena introduced by a philosopher called Edmund Husserl. Rich's poem The Phenomenology of Anger has a rich semantic field of phenomenology referring to these words: freedom, being, existence, world, man, phenomena, coexist, becoming, conscious act. These words together contribute to the effect that this is a kind of phenomenological discourse. The object of study for Rich is the emotion of anger arising in a rebellious woman. She identifies true love as a remedy after this kind of analysis, and so she says her true love is for women and children. That is what she understands after her analysis of the whole situation, after being married, after having 3 children, and then interacting with the world at large. By looking at this kind of phenomenological approach to this poem, we can say Adrienne Rich is a phenomenological feminist poet. To give you a summary of our discussion, we have looked into the historical and literary context of Adrienne Rich, who became a rebellious poet after her broken marriage and went on writing about women's rights with her own theory of revisionism to see things differently, to create a new tradition. And then we read some extracts from this poem, The Phenomenology of Anger, analyzed the poem rhetorically, linguistically, and gave a feminist consciousness raising exercise in this context. And then we also presented some pictures to convey how Rich is attempting to express her own thoughts and ideas about the world in general, especially the status of women and children. And finally, we attempted a phenomenological reading using the semantic field of words like freedom, being, becoming, conscious act, and all that together. We put them together and related them to Edmund Husserl's phenomenology and understood that Rich was able to become a phenomenological feminist poet. Here are some references. One of the articles I wrote about her long back, which I have presented to you in this section, phenomenological reading. Others, I hope you will get them, and many others are there you can read and enrich your understanding of feminism and Adrienne Rich. Thank you.